Again, it's gonna get feedback and an echo, so I'm going to mute the YouTube from my end so we don't hear that echo.
Okay.
So Adrian, I know you're not on your phone, so if you can check the YouTube to make sure every so often we're doing good.
Okay. Okay.
I'll let you know when we again, it's gonna get feedback and an echo, so I'm going to mute the YouTube from my end so we don't. There we go. It is muted now. So let me click the share button and copy. So here is, where's my comment at? Here is the link to the live on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I put it in the chat box.
Okay. I think we're really gonna like Zoom.
I think so too.
And you're gonna get.
I love Zoom. I've been using it. I've been using it for probably almost 2 years.
Yeah, we've been using it, but not as I've never been like the one setting up the meetings and everything, right? So I've just been using it. So it's new for us to start using all of the all of the different things you can do. And I love the meeting rooms and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a lot of features. I have been hesitant to start with the meeting rooms because I don't want to mess nothing up in the middle of a meeting. But it has a lot of those features that I need to figure out still 2 years later.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we tried, I think we tried to have our first one last week, but we hadn't learned enough about it yet. So yeah, we're doing better. Shibran, you have to
on the job training.
You said I have to do what now?
It's saying that you're gonna let me in. I'm waiting for you to let me into Zoom. Because I can't get to the chat.
You're in Zoom.
You're already there.
I mean, from my phone. I can't get into YouTube unless I'm in Zoom, right? And chat.
No, you don't have to. I'll send it to you on your messages.
Okay, I'm leaving that side. Okay. Today I had like 5 virtual meetings going on, and they were just crossing
at the same time. I'm sure we were there together, yes, Adrian, trying to do all of those. Yes. I said, can y'all talk to each other? Why are we trying to do this?
On the consortium, we were looking at how to do your advisory boards. And so I was trying to listen. So finally, I just gave it to Casey. I said, listen to this and take notes. And she's like looking at me like, Mom, you do know you can go back and look at this on your own at some other time.
That's what I said. I said, I'm going to have to catch the replay because I was confused by then. So.
And then I felt conflicted because I could have won the book contest, but then I thought, I can't win the book contest. I'm a mommy.
What book contest?
I know.
So I'm going to put in a book contest for the mommies next time.
There you go. That's actually a good idea. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was
you can
laughing.
do a little bit of a book club.
Yeah, I know they were doing one with Dr. Simone's book and some other books, but I mean,
That's right.
I was like, Dominique was like, yes, and if you've read something off the New York bestseller list, and I'm like, what? I'm reading science, and I got books on social justice, and I got books on the New York
and I got Audible. because I have to listen to those on my way to work, on my way home from work, on my way to my next meeting, and then in between those meetings.
Absolutely.
That's the best way that gets done. I love my Audible.
That's what I'm gonna have to do. I have it. I just don't listen. Okay, she's here. See?
Hello.
Yay.
Yay. She's trying.
Okay, you're feeling better. Huh? No.
I figured it got me for like
40 minutes. 40 minutes would be good.
Before everything kicks in.
Okay.
Yes. So we're waiting for other people.
So,
Hi.
Hi.
It's already live.
So I know the topic is the parenting.
The topic
What?
is
Parenting.
single parents of opposite sex children. And we are trying to give Master like 5 minutes to join us because it's his son's birthday. So he should be, he said he'd be done by now. So that's how this whole thing started.
She gave me lipstick to put on.
Okay, well.
But we're live right now, right?
So let's,
We're live,
so
right? So we have to talk. But I mean, just don't get scared if you jump in. My game, what's up? I'm here.
All right.
So go ahead. I was gonna say I had Marissa, but I was there because Mom's did. Am I talking too loud?
No,
Mom
has an introduction.
Oh, do the
The whole
introduction.
thing.
I was ready to
She
go.
must be
Okay.
taking over.
What are we doing? Okay.
This happens.
I know.
Marissa, you look like my son looks when he's with me, so it's okay.
Okay.
Same exact facial expressions, literally.
Okay. So now that we have started, I just want to thank you ladies for joining. This is a great topic, and we'll start with introductions. So I'm going to start with myself, and then Marissa, and she's going to explain a little bit what brought this topic.
That's right.
Topic is about. So without further ado, I am Shabrian Howard. I am the co-founder of the Sickle Cell Experience Live. I am a mother of a 6-year-old with sickle cell trait. She is my sunshine, and I'm a filmmaker. I'm a photographer. I write. I'm a writer. I have many hats and do many things, and most of all, I am an advocate for sickle cell disease. So that is who I am.
And I'm sorry, I have to add to that for you. You are also the daughter of a warrior, of a fallen warrior. So
I am, yes.
Shout out to all us mommies.
Yeah, shout out to the mothers out there. Great, and she definitely handled this illness gracefully. And I didn't realize how much until I got older, and I realized, wow, just to think of all the things she went through was very. It keeps me strong. So, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hello, I am Marissa Kors. I'm a 5th generation 43, just turned 43-year-old sickle cell patient and patient advocate. I am the co-founder, co-host of the Sickle Cell Experience. And I'm also an author and all-around outspoken person, I guess. And this is my mama.
And I'm Adrienne Shapiro. I am Marissa's mom. I'm the mother and sister of Sickle Cell Warriors, and I'm founder of Access Advocacy and owner of the Sickle Cell Experience and sickle cell and stem cell, I guess, advocate. Yeah.
There you have it. Okay, Ray, would you like to introduce yourself? Or
Yeah, that's right.
Want to tell people?
Okay. Sure. I am Ray Blaylock. I am first and foremost, I am the mother of an adult warrior. My son is 24. He actually just made 24 last week, years old. I am also the founder and the executive director of Sickle Cell Foundation of Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota. For those of you that didn't know where we were on the map, y'all know now. So, and we are here. So, and then I'm also the Sickle Cell Patient Family Health Advocate and Care Coordinator at our local children's hospital, and we care for about 96% of the pediatric population in the entire state.
Wow.
She works hard.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, Brandy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Brandy McCrae. I'm a mother of 3 children. I have a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and my warrior is 6 years old, soon to be 7. His name is Dacier. I'm excited about speaking out today about what we have being a parent of a mother, single parent to a child with sickle cell. And I'm so happy that you guys invited me.
Thank you for
being here.
Thank you.
Okay, so I made a PowerPoint because you know I'm extra. So we will I'm going to share my screen just so that you guys can kind of visualize what I'm saying, and I'll go back to the video as well. So let me share my screen.
And everybody, feel free to share this to your Facebook. You just hit the share button and then go to Facebook, and then it'll share the link. So there you go.
You just do that.
Yes, that's what I'm doing now. So it doesn't seem like I'm being completely rude. I'm just trying to.
Okay.
It's our very first film.
This is our very first YouTube.
Oh,
Yes, so we are excited.
all right, so we did the introductions. Now, the first question / story time is provide a brief explanation of how you became a single parent. When did you find out your child had sickle cell disease? What did you do, and what went through your mind? You guys want me to leave the questions up for a little second, or?
Yeah, leave it up.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Okay.
Well, how did I become a single parent? The lack of family planning. And I'm just keeping it real, right? It was not expected. I had an unexpected pregnancy when I was 24 years old. I was in college. I was going to classes most of the time, and I became pregnant. And it was not a time in my life that was what I thought was going to happen, but I put a lot of me on the back burner when I found out that I was pregnant. And then when he was 2 weeks old, through the newborn screening program that we have in our state, they identified his sickle cell disease. So that's when I found out. And it was literally as if my life came to a halt, or I should say the path that I was on towards the career and what I thought I was kind of paving the way for just halted, because I was faced with something that for very few times in my life, I literally knew nothing about, and yet I was expected to know everything. And it felt, that in and of itself felt overwhelming. And the internet did not look like it did now. I couldn't go, hey, Google. That just didn't exist. It still had a green background. And so being able to figure this out as I went, I was in a position to have to ask the very people who were in the position of authority that I really wanted to be able to go to my own community to get. So that I could hear the experiences of people as they kind of helped me to process all of this new normal. Because I knew that I don't know what I don't know, and I don't want something tragic to happen before I have an opportunity to better understand what I need to know and what I need to be doing. So it's been quite the journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful answer.
Do I answer?
Yes, you can answer.
So I didn't start off a single parent, which is really added to the complexity of our journey. We found out through newborn screening that Marissa had had sickle cell, and we didn't believe it because I had been tested and told I didn't have the trait, and so there was a period of time of like going through and saying it can't be true, it's not true, because I knew what it meant because of my brother. To find out, in fact, yes, it was true. And there was a whole lot of processing that I had to go through because beating myself up because I thought I had been responsible and not, and all of that. So, so what first went through our minds was that it can't be true. And then it was, oh my God, it is true. So, unlike a lot of people, I knew what to do because my mom had my brother and I been, part of that. But also, I knew what I didn't want to do, which sounds kind of strange. There were things my mother did that were amazing, but there were other things she did of protecting my brother and holding him so close. I didn't want to do those things. So I had to find out how to raise Marissa, keep her alive and safe with having the disease, and yet giving her all the skills to live as if she didn't. And I didn't become a single parent until her father was killed when she was 9 years old. And so knowing what I knew about the disease, knowing and understanding the weight of that loss in her life, we had to get a whole lot of help for that. And I was really mad at him for leaving me alone with her.
That's an understatement.
I mean, that's how crazy it was. It was pretty crazy. So yeah, it was like, I've got to do this now all on my own. And because I was choosing to do it different than my family wanted, a lot of it really was on my own. And
yeah.
Brandy?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so me and Dasir, my son's name is Dasir, me and his dad was together. And I had my tubes tied when I got pregnant with Dasir. So his whole birth and pregnancy was just crazy from the beginning. So I found out that I was pregnant with Dasir. I was 31 years old, and I didn't find out that he was going to have the disease until after he was born. My doctor never gave me a test, but gave me a script to get Dr. Dad tested to see if he was going to have the trait as well, to see, if the baby would have the disease. We was unaware that his dad was either a carrier of the disease, of the trait, but I knew I was a carrier of the trait. But so when Dacier was born, like I said, I had him on a Friday, and by Monday when I had a C-section, by Monday when I came home was a certified letter from the health department saying that I need to take my son back and get tested, that they think something is wrong with his blood work. So we took him and got him retested, and then about a week or so later, it came back and was like, yeah, something is definitely wrong. Your son blood work, something is definitely wrong. Never said that it was sickle cell disease. It's just like, oh yeah, we found a problem with his blood. You need to take him to the doctors. So I took him to the primary care doctor, and the medical assistant like, I think it's saying that your son has the sickle cell trait. So I'm like, oh, okay, he had the trait. My daughter also has the trait. So I wasn't really too much worried. So about like a month later, we had to go take him to the hematologist. My mom, myself, and his dad, we took him to the hematologist, and hematologist says, oh yeah, your son has sickle cell disease. And I said, no, I thought he has the trait. He said, no, he actually has the disease. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So then, he explained to me, how come diseases comes about and everything, what to expect. He also told me, he has SC. He was like, he probably never have a sickle cell crisis until he get older. He said, you should be fine. So he said, well, I'm gonna put him on this penicillin. He's supposed to take it 2 times a day, and he should be fine. We see him every 3 months. So my son father wound up getting incarcerated when he was 7 months. So that's how I became a single parent with him. At first, still when he was a baby, it was just like, okay, he has this. I wasn't really too much worried at first, even though I seen firsthand what my cousin went through. I don't know, it just wasn't like a big thing for me at first. But he also showed my son his spleen was always 2 centimeters from birth. So he showed me what to feel like if he cry a lot, but it won't stop in 2 hours, things to expect. But he was always a crying baby to me. And I didn't contribute to sickle cell at first. I didn't know what it was, why he was crying. I just thought he was a cry baby, to be honest. I didn't think it could, that thought never crossed my mind he could be in pain, actually. It never crossed my mind. And then finally, when he probably was like about 1, he started talking real early. And one day he got up and he's like, Mom, my leg hurt. And just as calm, just like that. He wasn't crying. He just said, my leg hurt. And then he went from that into screaming and hollering, like in pain, and saying his leg hurt. And then from there, it was like we took him to the hospital and he was in a full-blooded crisis. And ever since then, it's just always been on and off, back and forth to the hospital. So now with that being said, once that first started happening, when I realized, okay, he is having crisis, I just started educating myself on things that, what he can do, what he can, anybody that come in contact with him, to know how to care for him. At school, anybody that's just going to be, period, that's involved, for his protection, and for my sanity, so that's how that's how it came about with him.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from what you guys just said. I know that I'm because it just didn't work out with me and her dad. So. End of story.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I want to add too that, I mean, as single parents, no matter how you became that single parent, I think that there's this adjustment period because there's so much on your shoulders. There's so much that's expected of you during that. It's like another life transition, right? No matter how many children you already had, or whether it's your first, it's still another life transition. And trying to figure out just simply that change, and then on top of it, realizing that there's an underlying medical condition that how well you feel, no matter even whether you've seen it as a parent or whether you've seen it in a sibling, to know that now that's on you as a parent, to know that you're now the one responsible, and to process that while you grieve in many ways, even the news and coming to terms with it, you're still expected to be strong and be informed through it. And I think for me, at least, that was the hardest thing is, what does that balance look like? How do I figure out how to process my own emotions, how to be strong for this little child who knows nothing, how to educate myself at the same time as well. So there's so many pieces and so many layers to being a mother of a warrior, particularly if you're a mom and you're raising a son as well, or if you are a dad raising his daughter, or there's just those dynamics that are there and present. So like I said, so many layers.
Right. I describe it as like, you get that letter and the whole lens is like that letter forms a lens from which that point on is how you look at your life and make all of your decisions from that point on. That lens now of having this, as you said, little person that you have to protect, and you have to do all those things as a parent you would do, plus a lot more. And I remember thinking that I was really grateful that I had a girl because I saw things with my mom, like with my brother, that were really heartbreaking for her. He had a stroke and he really wanted to do sports, and everybody else was doing sports and he couldn't. And he was always falling in love. I mean, falling in love with the church ladies who were much older than he was, but falling in love and planning on marrying them nonetheless. And these conversations would come up, and I could see my mom looking at her gain was having her son and having him alive and having him be this sweet soul. But what was lost was being able to see him have this predictable, complete life, right? So I think for me, I had such a strong belief because of her that science would make it better, that I felt like I had to not only practice all the things she did to keep my brother alive, but also do those things you did, as any parent does, to prepare a child to go off to leave the nest or be those things too. And so it was the duality of that. And at a time when women were, you know, you get an education and then you have a career and you have, you know, a job, you have all of that going on. It was very complicated time in order to, I guess, to meet it for this challenge. But I think of me, I think that it brought out the best in me. It required me to, at all times, as much as I could, to be the best of me, because I had a warrior.
I agree, Marissa.
And if I had to be a, you know, I have brought this child in the world with these challenges, and I had these expectations of her. I had these expectations of her, then I had to meet my own myself.
That's one of those hits.
Speaking of challenges,
Yeah, this one.
Next part of this. What are the biggest challenges raising a child with sickle cell disease? What advice would you give to someone who just found out their child has sickle cell? Is there any piece of advice you would give to a single parent with little to no support? So,
I'm gonna. I was gonna say I'd take that one. Oh, good. As the old lady here in the thing, the oldest child, let me show you, do it first, and then I'm gonna leave it to you youngsters. Here we go. So for me, my biggest challenge with raising my child was, I'm gonna be really honest, was the guilt that I felt for me, right? I think once I got past being able, the guilt of every time I explained it, every time I had to go through an experience with her, every time, you know, we couldn't go somewhere, we couldn't do something, she couldn't do something, every time we were that wave of responsibility and guilt would be. And so for me, it was stopping that, and because it was not conducive to having a good life, and then changing it around and saying, this guilt that I'm feeling is something I'm putting on myself, and what I need to be putting on myself is all the good stuff and all the positive stuff that I can, in order to have the energy, because that energy is such a resource. You learn that when you have a child, period, and when you have a child with sickle cell, even more. Anybody that I think finds out that their child has sickle cell, you need to find someone who has an older child with sickle cell, particularly an adult, because that's where you're going to get really the honest truth. And had I known some of the things that I know now, I would have done some things differently. And particularly right now, I say that you, as young mothers or mothers of younger children, have some resources in the new meds that we didn't have, and that we didn't understand and weren't told from the beginning about the accumulative effects of sickle cell. And so I think that that's the advice I would give. And to a single parent, what I will say to you is, yes, family, blood family may or may not be there, but your life family shows up, and you need to honor that and accept that as equally as value as you would blood family. So that's it from the old lady.
All right.
I would say one of the biggest challenges for me was raising a child with sickle cell disease is that being a single parent. A lot of times because when we go to the hospital, he always had bad veins from the very beginning. I'm not even gonna say it's just from being stuck, but from birth to me, they always had trouble finding his veins, and it's just a lot to sit there and watch the child have to be stuck and they're already in pain and they can't get the medicine in fast enough because they don't have an IV, and he hollering and screaming to the top of his lungs, and it's like nothing you can do, and it's like nobody you can, because nobody there to support you, but you have to be strong as the mother, of the child that's going through, and he's looking up at you, and you can't break down. You have to be strong for him because you want him to be strong and brave. um and so for me it's like a mental thing. um it plays on my mind a lot, like wow, like I know he has this, we're dealing with this, but I have to be there for him, but like who's going to be there for me, you know? So I do a lot of praying, though I can say that like my faith is all into God. I pray a lot, and give it to him, but again, it goes back to like seeing your child in so much pain, there's nothing you can do, and you're the only person there, and that the child got to depend on to get through this. And with my son, he's such a sweet, and I believe worries. I don't know if it's just some about kids that's sick. I don't know. They just, I always say that they know this is their life, so they know this is what they had to deal with. So as a parent, I feel like we worry more about them, and they're like, oh, I'm okay, but it's just the parent. Like, so to me, that's how I feel anyway. Like, like you
That's
okay,
very
but I feel
true.
like it's a lot. It's a lot for me as a mother, to deal with, and
Yeah.
so again, uh not having support, someone to be there for you to turn to say, oh, this is enough, I had a long day, or I don't know how much I can take. It's like I can't leave out the room. My son is 6 years old, he's in the hospital. I can't just leave him there in the hospital by himself. Not that I would anyway, but I don't get a break. I don't get the chance to breathe. Like everything I do is, my life really revolves around him. Hospital stays, like, so what I started doing is like, he stayed in the hospital so much, I went on Macy, I got me another bed to go on top of, like a top of comforter, a wagon. I pack our bags is always packed. I put everything in the car, so if you have a crisis, I just transfer it to the other car and we just go, make it easier. And 9 times out of 10 we go to the hospital, like
minimizing the chaos.
yeah, we already have to stay, so I don't have to worry about nobody bringing me clothes. I'm not worried about anything to eat. I'm just, making sure my son is, okay, no matter how long he has to stay. This is what we got to do. So it has become like the normal for me. And I just thank God still, like I said, I feel like God did not give me this child after my tools was tied to be here, like just to leave me stuck or to leave him. So I just believe it is what it is, and I got this, we got this, and we're gonna deal with it. And I always tell him, like, he has sickle cell. We're not gonna let sickle cell have us. So I look at it like that. This is what you have. We're gonna deal with this, but it's not gonna define our life. It's not gonna define who you are. So while he can't play certain sports, I heard you say about your son, like, I'm a big football fan. My older son plays football, and I'm like, oh, I got another boy. He could play football. But he's unable. While he's unable to play football, he is able to play basketball. He is able to do karate. So I keep him as much things as sports wise that he can, to let him know that because you have to, you don't have to just not be able to do anything. Right. There are some things that you are able to do. We keep you hydrated. Every time he's in something, I make his coaches or whoever come in contact has to be aware of what's going on with my son at all times, or whatever. So I make them aware of the situation. By their hygienes, washing hands, kids was like, I'm a big fan of that. Like, because if something happened to my son, if one of these kids here gets sick, my son immune system's not good, that means he's going to get sick. So I can't have that. So for me, that's a big thing with that. And wow, like I said, he ain't able to do all the things. He is able to do a lot, and he pretty bounced back pretty fast too. So I do like that. When he's sick, and when he's not, he's good. And like I was telling Marissa, he just got out the hospital Wednesday. He went in, and he was having a pain crisis, and they say that he had acute chest. So the morning kind of found out, they said it was acute chest that he wound up having. Um, that was kind of hard to deal with, but not worse than some other stuff he had to be through. And he couldn't urinate. Now that's hard to watch them stick a straight catheter in your 6-year-old, penis, and they can't even get the urine out 3 times. And he hollering and screaming. He asking me. He telling me they trying to kill him. He tells me, Mom, you know, you trying to let them kill me. Now for that, I had to break down and I cried. That literally, I cannot stop. Like I literally broke down crying right while he was there. Like I couldn't control it. Like that, for him to feel that I would allow someone to do that to him. And even though I know it may felt like that, but I was trying to tell them they was trying to help him. But again, only thing I had to do was just say, God, please, like just help my baby, get my baby pull through this. And they didn't do a catheter. He didn't wind up going to the bathroom to the next day, but at least they had to go back in there or whatever. But it's a lot when you don't have nobody else to turn to, and it's just you and that child. When he's sleeping, I talk to him and I pray over him so much, and it's always things that's always on my mind. Like I don't really get that much sleep because I'm just so worried about what's going on with him, like what's going to be next, and why my son had to go through this. So it's a lot, and for any parent that would have to go through that, just found out their child has sickle cell disease. And I would say to educate yourself, get to, talk to parents who have children that's going through the same thing. And definitely invest in the sickle cell mommy group. I thank God for this group. Like I said, a lot of times when I'm in the hospital, I go on a group or and I see stuff and and I see like all the kids are starting to get sick around it. So okay, and for me, a sign that my son is getting sick, I always tell him his eyes start to turn yellow like brown. Now I look in his eyes, I'm like, oh, I don't like the way your eyes is looking. And then sure enough, here come a crisis or whatever. And so I feel like you should just know your child, know his triggers. Be aware be aware of their movements. I try his diet. I make sure he drink plenty of water, vegetables, and and things like that. He's not really a meat eater, or anyway, keep his vitamins and stuff. But like I said, but knowing your child, like, and knowing when you have to leave them with someone, that they're aware of his situation and his surroundings of what's going on. And him, and my son is educated a lot by what's, I mean, like, when I let him go to the doctors, he tell them what's wrong and what's going on. I let him talk, he can tell you what's going on because he's aware of what's going on. He can tell them all the medication he takes, like he tell them everything was going on. Like when they ask me when he can talk, I say ask him, he'll tell you. He can tell you better than I can, which is true. And that's what he do.
So
wow.
No. Oh, right. No. Did we answer all the questions? Reagan. Sorry. Okay. That was my question.
No, Marissa, you can go ahead.
No, it can wait because it goes with the next group of questions. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, huge shout out to you, Brandy. I'm so impressed and I'm so touched to hear you tell your story and your experiences from such a place of honesty, because you said a lot, you said a mouthful, and you talked about a lot of feelings that you have as a mother and as a protector, but also as in a place of even feeling vulnerable of I can't even help. Right. Those are very real feelings that we oftentimes don't have anywhere to put those feelings. Right. And so what do? We kind of compartmentalize them away so that we can keep pushing forward. And there's a piece of that's a survival mechanism, but there's also a piece of that will destroy us. So I love when I hear our families say, I just had to pull away and cry. That is when we can do nothing else, we can do that, allow ourselves to do that, to cleanse ourselves, pray and cry, because sometimes there are moments that's all we have, right? And that is just the reality of it. Would we like it to be something different than that? Absolutely. And maybe sometimes it is, but not always. So I just couldn't go any further without saying that and applaud you, Brandy. And Adrian and Marissa, you know I love you all. You guys, I'm just glad there's people that's older than me that are mama bears. Because we all still learn from each other. But my biggest challenge when raising a child with sickle cell disease, as I already said, I am in Minnesota. And even though y'all know where we at now, there's still not as many of us, no matter what it looks like on CNN. But it was hard because I didn't know anyone who had sickle cell disease. I didn't grow up with anyone who had sickle cell disease. It wasn't in my family that I knew of. And so it just wasn't, even the phrase, the disease name, the state, just never came up. And so it was just a no topic. I did not find out that that I had a family member with sickle cell disease until probably last November. So really actually last Thanksgiving, I found out because my grandmother, who is in her 90s, had a very, very close brush with death. And I was sitting there talking with her and encouraging her. And she broke down and cried to tell me how proud she was of me because her brother had sickle cell disease. And she would watch him crawl through the floors and how it would destroy her. And I watched my grandmother, who is the strongest member of our family, cry this cleansing cry and saying, I never said anything to you because I didn't know how to help. And those generations that came before us saw a level of suffering that we have not seen the likes of. Just process that in the way that we show up in this space, knowing that we have been given a strength from our elders, that we have been given a strength from our ancestors who have carried on and have survived this. And that's really what got me through many of those challenges. Now, as he's an adult, the biggest challenge, let's be honest, if we're going to be honest about being mommies, the biggest challenge is keeping him encouraged, keeping him feeling like there's a reason to go on. I'm just going to keep it real. I do a lot in the community and I give a lot of hope. It doesn't mean that I don't struggle in my own house with the same thing. I would be wrong to sit here and tell other mommies that we will not have to learn how to also be an emotional strength as well in those times. Because that the way that sickle cell attacks the mind is almost, I would argue, almost more than it attacks the body. And so what I know now that I didn't know then, I'm not even sure that the medical system in those days understood the impact that it would have. And not just the disease state, but the state of health disparities and the state of poverty and the state of racism and all of these other pieces that go on top of that disease that cause a state of mind that does impact their ability to see hope. And the only thing that does that is those that surround those warriors. That's the only thing, because in those moments of crisis, in those pain attacks, everything you thought you knew about the meaning of life flashes before you, and you question it. And that's just the honest to God truth. That's a big challenge, and work certainly as the mother of an adult, or even a young adult, or even an adolescent, or even a 6-year-old, because even younger now they're saying, why me? And that is a real emotion, and that is a real visceral response as a mother who can't stop the pain. Right. And learning what to do with those feelings so that you don't destroy yourself. Because I lived in the very early, the first 5 years after the diagnosis, I wasn't the healthiest person. I had to figure out how to cope because the road I was on, it wasn't going to work. And I had to come to a place in my life that I said, this is what my normal is. And I better get on this train or this train is leaving without me and my child. And I can't afford to let that happen. Now, I never put him in danger or anything like that, but I had to get this straight. I literally had to get this straight so that I could be the parent and I could be the strength in those moments that I needed to be. So whether I had a partner or whether I didn't, I knew that at the end of the day, it was going to fall on me. I gave birth to that child. I sat up in those appointments and spoke with doctors and attended, and I got up in the middle of the night. And that created a bond that most people will never understand. I remember my pastor I was a single mother for 14 years before I got married. And I remember that my pastor, when I introduced him to my now husband, we've been married almost 10 years. My pastor said, you need to understand something. Trying to separate her from her son is going to be like trying to take the cross from Jesus. And he was doggone right. It wasn't going to happen. And I love my husband, but you can't separate me from this cause, and you can't separate me from my presence in his life and his in mine. This is a bond that he didn't ask for. I didn't either, but we're both going to step up and we're going to do what we have to do together so that he can have some quality of life that he can feel purposeful about.
Right.
Yeah. That's beautifully put.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, can I ask my question now?
Yeah.
So my question, well, no, because she brought up the marriage thing. And so we have this book that's like, I don't know if it's on shelves yet.
It's one of those books.
But it's called Racism, Science and Tools for Public Health Professionals. And basically it breaks down the race disparities like across all lines and in like however you can think of, are they being racist? Are they being biased? Like they have broken it down in here, except they don't have sickle cell, which is, you know, I don't know why I'm surprised, but low key, I'm a little bitter about that. But they have everything that we need just in different places. But my question is nothing to do with this. I was holding it. You're single parents and you have this like sick child. What was it like, or what is it like to date someone? Because like I can tell you, for me, outside of my dad and outside of my sister's dad, so second dad, I got 3 dads. Second dad, there was only one other person that, you know, my mom was with, and she was with him, I mean, a really long time. For a really long time. Even after they broke up and she remarried, you know, he would come visit me at college and call me and be like, stop being mean to your mother. Answer the phone. And I was like, I did answer the phone. No, somebody else answered the phone. You're not answering the phone. She unhappy over there. Stop being mean to your mom. I'm like, you know, homie, I did. But, you know, he was like there. And I never saw casual dating. And so when I grew up, my sister's 20 years younger than me, and I moved home directly after college. And I averaged one relationship a decade, so she's 23 on like the third person that Cecilia's ever dated.
Okay, so let me just again do this with the kid. You end up okay. So that relationship was long, and I want to talk about that. That it was really great, and it worked really well. He did not come to my house. It wasn't that kind of thing. He understood, so I could have like go see him on a Tuesday. But he was very supportive. If I had to be at the hospital, he would see
we would go to his house sometimes.
Yeah, the swimming pool. Yeah. But how do I say this? I think I was the queen of single dates because I would say that Marissa had sickle cell, and a lot of times the date at that point ended.
Like they would get up and go to the bathroom?
Like, no, like they would make a face, right? And I think I had friends who had kids with sickle cell, and they would date people and not tell them that their child had sickle cell, because they didn't want they wanted to further the relationship. But it's being single and carrying that. It also makes you careful about where you spend your energy. That's how I found it. It was like, are you worth my energy or not? I only got like Tuesday, or maybe sometimes I'll have a Saturday afternoon I could spend with you. And if you can't deal with my schedule, you know what I mean? Or what I'm carrying, are you then worth my energy? And again, I'd say back, it comes to a point where you're triaging, but I think it gives you a really good, it's like a good North Star where you can wage values and decisions about people in your life, jobs you're going to take, boundaries, all of that get measured by that child with sickle cell. And I think for me, it saved my life, because if I hadn't gotten to that point, I think I would have constantly been in conflict. But I don't know. What about you, Ray? Dating. Do you remember dating?
I actually chose not to date. It wasn't. Yeah. I was emotionally drained. My son was in and out of the hospital constantly, and his crises were intense. And our income was my job. And so between caring for him, being in and out of the hospital, going to work, I literally chose not to date for the first 10 years. Like I said, I got married when my son was 14. So when I started dating, when he was 10, I dated maybe 2 or 3 people before I met my husband. Or maybe it was after I met my husband. I don't remember. But I only told my husband after I had to, maybe the second or third time he had went into a crisis, and I was choosing not to answer the phone. I just said, when I did answer it, I said, I just need to be focused right now on some other things. And he couldn't understand what was happening. And so that was the only reason that I told him. But it was hard because I had to adjust my expectations of people. Let me just be honest, because, as on one hand, I wanted to be able to say my child has sickle cell and you two have this empathy and understanding that just wasn't realistic at least in my region, where ain't nobody talking about it. Ain't nobody heard of it. And it was more painful to try to walk people through all of that than it simply was to just buck up, figure it out, and keep going. And even after I got married, probably, I've been married 10 years, probably the first 3 to 5 years, my husband was like, you got to let me in. You got to let me in. And it wasn't that I didn't want to let him in. It was that he wasn't able to be what I needed in that moment. So because of that, I had to build a boundary so that I didn't break trying to expect something that he was incapable of giving at that moment or in that stage of our relationship. And so there's, those dynamics. You have to grow, and it's no different than if you're already married and you get a diagnosis about your child. That's right. That impacts that relationship and the dynamic. And many marriages and relationships end because you don't process those things together. And so 90%. I can tell you, I had to learn 90%. How to process it with him and only expect from him what he could give. And the same thing with any other family that I consider my support system. They're not not my support system because they always understand and they're perfect understanding. They're my support system because they let me be human through my journey. And I have helped them to understand that I need you to simply say if you can't. Because if you can't, that's fine. In that moment, I need to find my can, and we can work on anything else later so that I can keep those relationships intact. Because otherwise we will go like this with some of the very people who we want to be there for us, but just aren't in that state of being able to.
Right.
I would say, well, for that year, I am married, but me and my husband is separated. But when we first started dating, I did let him know that my son had sickle cell disease aware. And he was fine. Like he didn't really know what it was, but I explained to him. When my son would get sick, he would come to the hospital. He would spend his vacation up at the hospital. Like, even though we're not together now and my son going to hospital, like he'll call. He'd be like, I could come see you on the weekend if y'all not out of there, you know. They have a great relationship. Like, he'll call him on the phone. They slept in a recliner chair up there together. He has been through it. So he has been good. Even though we're separated now, I'm not looking to date anyone. I'm big on my kids. I mean, I just feel like I have a lot to focus on with having kids. I have teenagers and I have this baby that's going through a lot. So I don't have time to deal with people. It's a lot of time. It's time consuming, I would say. You know, I had something more important to focus on.
That's right.
You know, and that's my children and things too. Even one thing I feel like, because I'm a parent, I feel like I love my kids like a lot of people do, but being that I have that year, he's the youngest, he gets sick, I spend a lot of time with him. But I got two older kids too, that they have to go to school and their functions and stuff, and I had to be here with them. So I just got to call them, make sure that they're good, you know, or make sure they're getting to where they have to go, because I have to spend some, like, you know, I have to ask them, well, how are you feeling? Because, you know, for 6-7 years, long years, they didn't have their brother. You know, it was just them. And they didn't have to worry about me going to a hospital, always going to that, or me always having to be away. You know, it was just them. And, you know, I was able to make everything they had, you know, dances and basketball, football, whatever. I was able to do that, you know, school functions. But now that I have my son and he's sick all the time, you know, I had to stop and think, like, you know, well, how do you guys feel? You know, I know you guys don't get to see me as much because I'm in the hospital with him. Sometimes we spend weeks at a time at the hospital, you know.
Right.
I had to call them to check on, see, make sure they're doing everything, check when they work online. It's a lot. And I just feel like I have enough focus on my plate right now to be focused on what's going on with my kids than to worry about what's going on with a man.
Right.
I just feel like I don't have time for it. Like, it's just, that's not what I want. And like, I don't need nobody that's going to stress me out or add. I got a lot on my plate dealing with every day. Don't know if this is a day I'm going to go to the hospital or what's going to go on with my son. Like, you know, so with that, I can deal with this. This is what I know how to do. I don't want any extra on, you know. Already, like I said, my kids being teenagers, they do what they do. They get into things. Then I gotta take my mind off and deal with whatever they got going on too, as well as what's going on. So I feel like I'm just tied up with what's going on with my kids. And right now, I feel like there's not no room for a man to come in my life. Like, I'm just not willing to give you that attention, energy, or anything. Like, I had something to focus on, and there's 3 children that's going through a lot right now, because like I said, at the end of the day, I have to remember that these 2 older children I have, that they were here before my son. I had to take their feelings into consideration, you know, in which they understand. Like, not like say like, oh, you're always with him, but still, as a mother, knowing that I spent so much time with him, yes, and in the hospital a lot, and I'm not able to be with them as much as I should be, or when they got things going on, because I'm in a hospital. You know, I'm in a hospital, but, you know, I always do make a way, you know, for them to get where they need to get, you know, and things to get done. And like, I am pretty present at almost everything they have going on. So if it is a time that that's in the hospital, they understand I can't be there because of their brother in the hospital, or whatever. So with that being said, I don't have time to focus on a man right now. You know, I have more important things, and that's my children.
Yeah.
It was funny though. You talk about how you had the older kids first, and then you had your kid with sickle cell. So I'm the first kid, and then 20 years later, we had Casey, and I was off in college, like, you know, being the road trip queen and doing all these things and having a really good time or whatever. And then when, you know, the divorce came, I was like 23, so that made Casey 3. And I came home, and I remember the first time that I got sick at home, after I had a very dramatic, I got sick at home, which is, I ended up in the ICU and it was just all bad. But after that time, like a normal, I'm in the hospital and I'm sick. But I remember like being extremely conflicted in that I didn't want this little person at the hospital. Like I was doing my best to make sure that her life was as sort of free from all of this as possible, you know, separation of house and home, because that's sort of how I was raised. You know, I was always very careful that even though she was 3, even though she was 4, like her little friends from next door never had to worry about them running into the house and seeing like medical equipment and, you know, stuff like that. And then I was in the hospital and I'm like, okay, I don't really want her here, but yo, I want my mom. Hey, yo, wait, what the hell you mean? I got to be here alone because you're going to be over there with her. And I was here first. And real talk, I was like a little bitter about that for a minute. And it was never something that I like was hyper focused on, but it would just be certain moments, you know, maybe just throughout the visit, my stay at the hospital, where it was like, I would like to have my parent here, but there's this smaller version of me at home that I guess needs her more. Okay. And I had to start like trying to find ways to fill that gap. And it was not the easiest of things to do. And I remember talking to my grandmother about it. My grandmother was like, first of all, you don't have anything that you need to complain about. Absolutely nothing. You are perfectly fine over there at the hospital with the white people. And you know, the minute they mess up, Adrian's coming. And if she ain't come, we send to somebody. And you are just fine. You just need to find something to do. You're bored. She literally told me I was bored. You bored. I was like, okay, Mom, okay. And then she said, you know, don't worry. She said, well, you know, when you get out, you just come over here like you always have. And I was like, yeah, okay, but that's still sort of sidestepping the fact that
she had been replaced.
I want my, yeah.
Which she had, it's interesting hearing this story.
My mom here. And then I had to learn, and this is where it gets interesting. I had to learn how to do some of the things that she does. So I had to learn how to like start, you know, going in on nurses like, wait, hold on, what you mean you was late? Why was the medicine late? So the medicine was late because you was on a break or because you was with the patient. Pick one. Oh, okay, because you was with the patient, but you didn't know that I needed my medication, so you didn't have someone to call. The last time I checked, you know what, there's a whole nurse station out there. How you couldn't call somebody? What's up with that? And like trapping them into these, but oral, but trapping them into these conversations where truthfully, if they answered yes or if they answered no, they were still going to be in trouble. And I had to learn how to do that because she was no longer there daily. You was there when it got important. It's okay.
I was there. And you, how often were you really alone? This is another discussion. You had people sitting with you.
I had friends.
Yeah, so you had people sitting with you. It's not like she was ever alone. She did not have me.
Exactly, because she was off with the person in the background walking with the dog. My
Is she
sister.
watching in the back?
She was.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
let's
back.
go to the next one. Shabrian's put this together.
Yes.
Stick to the script.
Sorry. Back on script, Fabian.
I don't know.
What do you have happening as?
Huh?
Or what do you fear happening as
Yeah.
a parent? Again, I fear. I fear Marissa being alone and there not being someone there to watch over her. I realize that with every hospitalization, there are people helping her, and people can be meaning to do the best thing and not do the best thing, and there could be life-ending consequences. So I think for me, that's has been my greatest fear. And I think
I would echo that same thing.
Yeah. That's it.
I think that's hard. That's hard. That is, it's the aloneness. It's the by themselves. It's the without an advocate, without someone who knows them and can intervene if there is less than compassionate care or less than knowledgeable care, or if there's questionable things that are happening. Or just that's able to ask questions in a state of mind that doesn't include pain and pain meds, right? I think it's asinine that there's this expectation that individuals who are in a state of suffering and on heavy doses of pain medications to be able to function in a way that advocates for themselves. Or that is supposed to wake up at the exact time that they need their medication
and say, oh, by the way,
for more. That's just the most crazy. Who does that? That's not even realistic.
We get penalized when we do.
Yes, yes.
Well,
And so, and I'm careful because I truly believe that those who have much younger children who are still in the pediatric system where you see far less of this, I don't want to story as being on the adult side as well. I don't want to dampen the hope that our parents of young children have in the fight that we as mama bears are fighting now, right? We are fighting so that you younger mama bears don't have to, right? And maintain that hope that you won't have to, rather than absorb what we're currently facing, because that will impact your journey in ways that will feel overwhelming, stressful, and we don't want that to happen either. So it's the balance of being able to do, both, because we as parents of adult children have have some different fears than the parents of younger ones.
Right. And I think when I said to that earlier, that I thought if a new parent should know a parent that's been in this for a long time, the thing that I know that children born now, I guess, will not have the same journey that our children have had. That if we do the right things now, those children won't have to go through life without treatments. They'll have these new treatments that can actually affect the pathology of sickle cell and not be as needing of the pain meds, but also hopefully that they will be in a much more educated and human healthcare system, where now I feel like everything we do is kind of transactional. You come in because we bring our kids in because our kid hurts, and then the kid hurts, and so you're going to give them some pain meds to stop the hurt. But it's all kind of these one and one or one offs. And I hope that which then leads to negotiation, right? But what I hope is that along with documenting our struggle and making changes, that what it is that our new baby cubbies are going to have is a life where they're a hospital is a place of healing, right? Not a place that's just and holding, not just a place you go to stop something or start something, not a place to start and stops.
We talked about the dating question, so I'm going to change it, and I'm going to say, how has, like, just cut off the dating, how has being a single parent of a child with sickle cell changed your relationships with, like, friends? We talked about family, so like friends, meeting friends, keeping friends, throwing friends away, friends that want to give you advice on raising your kids, and then when your kids get older, want to tell your kids how badly they treat their mom, you know, stuff like that.
Does it sound like she's lived through this? Yeah.
Can I just piggyback off of what your mom was saying about the medication, you know, stuff for the kids?
Please do.
Just to piggyback off, I know you guys are saying with, you know, with the older kids, but just recently when Dacier was in the hospital, and he was in the hospital from November 17th to December 17th, almost literally a whole month. And me and his primary hematologist had got into it because they had sent a psychiatrist and they said they wanted him to talk to a psychiatrist or this and that and the third, you know, instead of using so much pain medication. They noticed that, you know, he's starting to use a lot of pain medication. So I had to explain to them, oh yeah, it gets serious. Like, yeah, it gets serious. So I had to go out this one day. I had to go out to come down. We live in New Jersey. I live in Hamilton, so I had to come from New Brunswick. His hospital is 45 minutes away, so I had to come down to his other business with my older son. So I left his sitter there, and I said, if anything happened, the doctors come in, have them call my phone. Don't make any changes to his medication. Have them call my phone. So they never called. So I say I get back about like 3 hours later. I come back and I get in there, and my son is in like complete pain, like he's going crazy. Like it's like almost if when we first came back in the hospital. So I realized that they then went down on his PCA pump, like on the continuous in the on the continuous in the button, the PCA, they went down. So I'm telling them like my son is in a lot of pain. Like I told you guys, if you guys want to make any changes, to call me and see if it was okay. So they was like, well, he thought we came in here and he was doing better, but I was telling like, you know, he's not doing better. And I know when my son starts doing better, he'll be eating. Like I notice changes in my son. I said, first of all, me as a mother, first of all, I don't want my son taking none of this. I'm gonna be clear. First off, I don't want to take none of this. None of it at all. But he has to have it. But so when I think it's time for him to come up, I'm gonna be the first person to say, okay, you could go down on this pump, this and that and the third. So I mean, he was crying, he was going off, so they kept trying to play with the pump. Okay, we're gonna put it up a little bit. So he hollered and hollered a little bit. Yeah. So finally, like the doctors came in, his other one who called, who she heard crying, him hollering on the phone when we first admitted him. And she like, oh no, we got to give him more bullets. We got to go back on the medicine. It took like 24 hours again for him to calm back down, to get the medicine to start going back to his body. I said, the thing is, when you guys go down on his medicine and it's not time, you guys put him in the backtrack. So now we going like, if we first came in,
you end up chasing the pain.
Yeah, now we playing catch up. Like, I don't got time. Like, y'all, I got to listen to all this hollering and screaming. I said, do you know what it's like for a mother to have to listen? I'm in here all day, 24 hours a day. I'm in this room with him. You doctors come here 5 or 10 minutes and then y'all gone. Like, you don't care what's going on with him. I was like, listen, like he's in a lot of pain. put his medicine back to where it was and leave it. Like, do not touch his pump again without asking me. Like, I know when my son is ready to come off this machine. So we had got to like a big thing. So finally they got it back under control. And then, like I said, they wanted the psychiatrist to come in and talk. I let her talk. My son had wanted to say to him. So I was saying, listen, I don't know if y'all think something going on with my son mind or something with my mind. This is the reason why I believe that God gave me this son. Like I said, I have to be my son's biggest advocate. He's 6 years old.
right.
He can't say a fifth for himself.
That's right.
But he got
That's
a strong
exactly
black mom that ain't about to let nobody get over on him. I don't care. Y'all
Yep.
doctors and I understand that y'all had degrees. I said, but I'm his first doctor. And I'm here to tell you that I know when my son is getting better. I would not let nobody give no medicine, think my son about to be all drugged out with no medicine. And that's not the case. Like, no. So we had got to a big thing. So then his primary doctor, he's like, well, what we're going to do is when he comes to the hospital, we're not going to just give him the morphine no more. We're going to start him. I said, listen, only reason why we come to, if I could treat him at home, then I would treat him at home. Like, I would treat him at home.
Right.
Only reason why I come
Right.
here is because, it's out of control. Like, the medicine not working on, so we got to come here. So he was like, I said, the thing is that, and I said, I'm going to be blunt with y'all. Ever since this opium started with these kids and y'all kids that's doing these drugs, y'all think everybody's doing these drugs. So now it's a hard time for my son to come in here and get medicine and then him to get, well, what 6-year-old about to be strung out on drugs? Tell me. I didn't see one yet. So for you to think that my son is faking, my son hasn't walked in a whole week. A kid that like to play, like to be in a playroom, that's just active overall. Like, I told you never even really see my son in a crisis. I told him, I said, well, here goes some video. I said, here's some video for you where he's hollering and screaming, he's begging for the doctors to come and pay. This is some video for you. So you never seen this. So I'm gonna make you aware of the situation. This is what I have to deal with. So yeah, I know y'all feel like I'm coming off aggressive. Yes, I'm gonna be aggressive when it comes down to my child because he always going through enough, and I have to speak up for him. I have to be his biggest. I can't let y'all get over it and think that whatever y'all say is gonna go. No, not with this child. This is what God gave him this mother that's going to fight for him, and that's what I'm going to do. Like I said, like I'm going to be his big. If I don't advocate for him, who going to do
right.
it? It was a big thing about that, and I'm like, he's 6 years old. Like, what are you talking about? Like medicine? Like he's going to get it? How? I'm worried about it. But guess what? I told him whatever happened in the long run, I said we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's what's going to happen. But for now on, don't touch this medicine. Don't touch this pump until I agree to it. That's like okay. When they came in, they said, "Do you think it's time?" When he started, I said, "No, I think it's time you can start loan." I said, you can tell. I said, but y'all did it too quick and too fast, and then the nurse is not fair to the nurses either because they got to hear it too. They got to hear the hollering and screaming. They see the difference in it because they're there also. But the doctors, you 5-10 minutes and you in and out, you giving orders and you out. You're not here, and I said, like, it's not fair to my son. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to the nurses. But while I got breath in my body, and this is my son, I'm gonna make sure he gonna get what's due to him. Like, you're not just gonna do him in your kind of way.
Right.
Like, that's just not gonna happen. Being young, I don't care about nobody's degrees. I'm his first doctor, and I'm his first doctor. And I know what about how long. Like I said, if you guys went and did that, you guys put us back almost a whole another week now because you guys went backtrack on his medicine. Now I said, nobody got time to be up here. They don't want to listen. I said, but I'm not going to let you just do my son any old kind of way. Like, that's just not going to happen. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't know what's going on with y'all with kids with these opiates and stuff. I don't know. And that's not my business. I don't care. It's not my business. But only thing I got to worry about is my son. And I said, it's a shame. I said, and it's not just with my son. I see it so much in a group of other parents saying the same thing. Like, this is what the world has come to, that you guys are trying to hold back medicine for these people that need their medication.
Children.
Like, this is ridiculous.
You're talking right.
I had a big fight with my son doctor about that last time. I said, I'm not going to allow you to do it. This is not it. Like I said, like I told him, you told me from the very beginning my son probably never would have a crisis until he get older. That was the furthest thing from the truth. You told me that when he gets spleen removed, he probably would never have no more crisis. That was I said. Now you want me to give you 3 strikes and no, we ain't doing all of that. Now guess what? It's my turn to speak. We're gonna go by my rules, and this is what we're gonna do. That's it. And that's all. Like you do what you want to do with your other patients. But as far as that steer go, like I'm gonna handle this the best that I know how. Like I said, I'm gonna keep praying to God, and I know how to deal with this. This is what we've been dealing with for almost 7 years. This is what I know how to deal with. Anything else I don't know how to deal with, but this I know how to deal. We can take this and we're gonna deal with it. But I'm just not gonna let you do my child any old kind of way in the process either. Like that's just not because you think you're a doctor. You don't know how this feel. I don't even know how I feel to go through what he's going through. You know, I can only imagine seeing it. You know, we don't know. They know. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a painful thing. I watch my cousin go through it and I watch my son. I can imagine the pain that they go through. Like, it's very real. Like I said, it's not only a physical thing, it's an emotional thing too. It's a lot to deal with, you know, for anybody to deal with, child or adult. It's a lot, you know, and like for doctors, just because you think because you guys went to school for this, y'all know best. Like, no, y'all don't. You know, you have to listen to your patient and the patient loved one at some point in time, you know. And like I said, as a mother, we have an intuition, you know, when it comes down to things, especially our kids, and it doesn't steer us wrong. And I told them I'm always gonna go off of that when it comes to mine. Like, that's what I'm gonna listen to. Ain't got nothing to do with nobody with no degree, because at the end of the day, something happened. I got to be the one to pick up the pieces, and I'm gonna have to deal with whatever the outcome of it gonna be. I'm gonna have to deal with it. So I have to do what I got to do for mine.
And
and that's the reason that I work in the clinic right there. That is the reason that I take myself out of the community and into the clinic setting, because they need to hear those voices. They need to hear every parent. What they do is they get distracted by our delivery, but they don't understand that all the content of what we are saying doesn't change. It's still the fact that we are our child's experts. Right? We have no problem partnering with you, but we are the experts. We bring the expertise about our child. You may bring your expertise, but we're going to come together, and you cannot put my child or anyone's child in one single box and think that that's how you treat all of us. We're I heard Dr. Wanda Sherney once described it so well, and I'm sure I won't do it justice. We're like snowflakes, because on the outside, to just look at it, every snowflake looks exactly alike. But if you were to look at a snowflake in the mirror, every single one is different. Every single one. And until we get to the place where we are able, this fight is not about the lack of education. I need to say that. This is not, these are individuals who have gone through medical school. These are individuals who were able to teach themselves and be taught medicine, how to research medicine, how to look for data. This is what they do. This is why they get paid what they get paid. This is why it takes so long to get their degree. So to expect me to continue year after year after year to buy in to a thought process that this is about education is foolishness. This is about preference. This is about the way you would like to treat a certain group of people. This is the reason that we have the health disparities and every other disparity that we have in this society. This is because when you see us, you don't see us as fully human. You don't see our pain as fully pain. And so until you change how you see us when we show up in whatever form we show up in, it's not about what you know and understand about sickle cell, because you didn't know anything about that other rare disease either when they came into the emergency room. But I'll bet you they got good treatment, or they got at least minimal, they got some respect that we are not afforded.
And can I just ask, I mean, the two of you that have sons, and I wish Master would have been able to join us, because he has stories of how he was treated once, you know, he became a teenager and a young man. And are you here?
He's here.
Finally. Well, then great.
I told you my son's birthday was today.
Yeah, you know what? Off camera on that one. But okay, so then perhaps you can elaborate. So the first time that I ever heard of the policing of a pediatric patient was about 10 years ago. And it came from one of my nurses who was telling me how she had gone to Africa and she'd seen what sickle cell looked like in Nigeria, and how, you know, she just, sickle cell was such her passion, and she took care of patients and peds the first 5 years of her career, but how I was special. I'm special because, you know, not every sickle cell patient has the education or the temperament or the manners that you do. I can't tell you how many patients I had to call security on.
What?
And I was like,
Wow.
wait, what? And, you know, it took me a minute because I was medicated, but still, we having this conversation. It took me a minute. And I said, but didn't you just come from Peds like a year ago? She's like, oh yeah, but I'm telling you the amount of times I had to call security on pediatric patients. And so then I'm like, okay, well, you could be in Peds until you're 22. So, you know, I'm in the inside, I'm just hoping and praying this cow was talking about like she called security on like, you know, somebody over 17,
18-year-old. Yeah.
Some shit like that. And she said, oh no, I had to call security on an 11-year-old boy with sickle cell,
Oh,
a
no.
13-year-old boy with sickle cell, and then another one. I really thought that he, you know, he was like 15 or so, but it turned out he was about 12.
It was a white lady or a black lady?
A little white chick, about 5'2",
Yeah,
you know,
so
120.
So think about
But
this,
wait,
right?
though. Wait. I looked at her and said, you called security. You actively policed a child in so much pain they could not stand up. And I really need you to tell me why. And her response was, I felt like I was in danger. I went in on that bitch so hard. I had her in the corner.
She felt like what? Wait, she felt like
felt
what?
like she was in danger.
Fear.
I felt as if I was in danger and I needed security. And you know, 2 of them I had to have cuffed to the bed. And I said, you know what? I said, right in this particular moment, what I need you to do, I need you to remove yourself from my service because you don't deserve to be a nurse. That's number 1. Said number 2, what the hell is wrong with you? How dare you? How dare you treat a child that is in your care, that you're supposed to not just help heal, but comfort? Like nurses put the hospitality in hospital and you're in Peds. I'm like, their parents entrusted you and you put their child in handcuffs while they are in excruciating pain and you call yourself a nurse. You got to get the fuck out. And I had this girl in tears sitting in the corner of my room for like 15 minutes. And like, that was something never occurred to me until I started speaking to men in the community. And now I'm going to let Master share his experience.
Before you start, Master.
This would be in police and forbid you at the hospital for care.
Keep that in mind for references. You cannot curse on YouTube. So, no cursing.
I don't. Yeah, I'm trying to stop cursing.
Just letting you know, you can't curse.
I got you. But
sorry.
For one, well, how y'all doing? My name Master. For those who don't know my name. Man, for one, right? If a person comes to if I come to the hospital, my daughter tied to some bed, that would probably go bad. However, right, the sad part about this is that I understand the nurse, honestly, because they automatically taught, and I mean all white. You have to I have a son that comes through the preschool with white teachers, being that I was at that particular time living in a predominantly white neighborhood. They scared. So they taught to fear us. Like even as little kids, they taught to fear us. So I understand that's why I already knew when you were saying the story, I knew it was fear. It was a fear thing. Now I'm not saying that it's right. You know what I'm saying? But white people are taught to fear black men. Even as little kids, especially white women. They fear him even more than, that's why me personally, I'll be wishing that my kids could have black male teachers, because it's going to be a dominance that the boy gonna listen to more than he would if it was a woman. So
how do you
especially
de-escalate that situation? You're a patient, you're in pain, you can hardly move, and
at 11
now
years
you
old
have
you
this
can't.
nurse.
At 11 years old you can't. You know, I've had a couple of situations where, you know, I almost went to jail a couple of times for over my daughter, you know. And it was one particular time where they told me had I took my daughter out of the hospital, they was gonna call CPS on me, Child Protective Services on me. But I didn't feel like that hospital was capable. And I was just trying to get her to Chicago. I was in Indiana where, like I said, it's predominantly white. And I'm just trying to get back to Chicago to what I know. You know what I'm saying? I know that they're good here. But like I said, they told me that if I would have took my own child, because they didn't want to transport her to Illinois, they only wanted to transport her to Indianapolis. They told me if I would have took my own child to Chicago, and it was the same distance between where they was gonna take her to Indianapolis between Chicago. You know, they told me that they would have called the people and possibly had my daughter take it from me. Another instance while I was in Illinois, and this was crazy because it was the same hospital that I had came up in. This particular nurse, my daughter crying. I'm talking about she 45 minutes in pain, crying. That's why, like, I can understand what Miss Brandy was talking about when she was speaking about, you know, what to give my child for pain and things of that nature. Like, because they telling me, you know, oh, we already gave her this, and then one nurse come past, but this particular nurse, she just kept on. It was the nonchalantness. It was that for me, that my daughter is crying and you walking past like, oh well. And so
unbothered.
And see, if you like, it was black nurses that was coming in and they was trying to comfort my daughter, but it was this one little Chinese lady, and I had her when I was younger. So I'm like, what happened to this woman? Because she wasn't like this when it was me. So I didn't even understand, but she had came from a different hospital. And like I say, it's two different St. James hospitals is what it was, but one closed down and she came to the other one. So like I said, I knew this lady and didn't understand why, like how she was so unbothered when this normally it wasn't her that I knew, you know. But she just kept doing it and kept doing it, and there was these other black nurses that was, you know, comforting, and I'm talking to them, and I got to a point where it was just like, hey, I don't want her coming back in the room at all. And so she, I guess, you know, thought it was a joke. and she came one time, that last little time that she came back, you know, they pretty much had to hurry up and get her up out of there because I was trying to get to her, because you're not gonna keep playing. And what I think the final thing with me was when I went to talk to, she said she said my daughter was due for pain medicine in like 15 minutes. Now I was upset about that because I know you could give it 15 minutes early. So when I went to talk to the nurse's station, I actually went in there, sat down at the computers with them, and was like, listen, I don't want this lady coming back in my room. I don't want her coming back. And because when I saw her at another person's room, but you said you was on your way to get the medicine. And now I see you at another person's room. So now I really don't want you there. And they had to snatch her before I snatched her, pretty much. The black nurse grabbed her before I grabbed her, pretty much. And that just what I had called my kid's mother by that time to tell her to come up here because it's gonna get bad. But I mean, these nurses, they do fear, you know, a lot of these. I'm trying to be politically correct. I'm trying not to sound racist because I'm not. I don't have an issue with white people, but I just feel like they automatically talk to fear us, especially, you know, when they boys.
Right.
And I don't care what age they are. because to them, we want to rape them. We want to do all these weird things to them. And we really don't even like
Right.
Right.
And I would say, and I would argue that there's a responsibility when we think about transition. We think about transition as when you go from pediatric to adult, but the transition conversation actually should begin happening, shortly after birth. And I don't think there's so many different layers to the transition conversation, but part of that conversation is how we teach our kids advocacy, because of the fact that we know that they are in the most vulnerable state when they're in the hospital. And there will always be at some point where we're not around, or a decision's made without us, or something that is going to impact how we respond in those situations. And being able to simultaneously continue to teach these staff members what it means to treat us with dignity and respect, and at the same time be teaching our kids how to respond in a way that your voice is heard. Right. In the most, because I talked to a lot of my families, and I remember someone talking to me at one point, like you have, advocacy, like in general advocacy. And then you have this different layer of effective advocacy and how your voice is heard versus what causes them to stop hearing anything you have to say. And that's hard, because when we as Black people, our emotion, our passion, once you cross a certain line with us, we don't come out the box. And we are carrying the treatment that not only have we received ourselves, but that we watch then that's happening to someone we love. And we are going to have a visceral response, because that's who we are as parents. That's who we are as protectors. That's who we are as Black people. And so how we begin to teach even the very young, how do you respond when you feel disrespected? How do you make sure that you let your parents know? For my young adults, we talk about what I call the trifecta, because there's three things that often happen at once. Number one, you're going from your being someone's child to your own adult, and this is all that transition as a young adult. You're going from someone's child to your own adult. That's very difficult. You're doing that as a person of color, particularly Black and brown in this country. That's very difficult on its own. And then you are also doing that with a chronic disease that people don't seem to care anything about. You've got three things all happening at once. And while the world starts looking different to you, we have to be honest enough with these young people that they start looking different to the world. This is not new. If you look at history, there comes a point right between about the ages of 11 to 13 where that young, I call it the brown baby Black adult syndrome. So it goes from that compassion that they feel for that brown baby and save the babies and let's wrap our arms around the baby. And all of a sudden they take on this other narrative as soon as they have their own opinions, as soon as they share their own feelings, as soon as they feel that child is overly vocal about their own rights. Then suddenly they start being treated as in adult tones, and they start talking about being fearful, and I call that stuff out. I'm not going to beat around the bush. When I talk to these nurses, I say you are inherently biased. You were taught to be biased, and until you get to a place where you are intentionally unbiased. Intentionally, because you have to fight against your nature. And I would say that in the nursing field, in the whole entire medical field, and fortunately, you had Black nurses that did care and did bring comfort. But I've also seen it the other way as well. Yeah. And so the field needs to become more compassionate. And it's not about how old that child is. I don't care if they are 3 months old, and I don't care if they are 80 years old. The same level of compassion and concern needs to exist in whichever environment that they're in, pediatric or adult.
Exactly.
My not as far as my daughter go, but as far as I'm concerned, my judgment, or should I say, it wasn't coming to me. It never came from white people. It only came from two Black people, and one was a doctor, and one was a nurse. I had one nurse tell me that she hoped that I'm not using this medicine for something outside of it. And I told her, would you tell your son that? Simple. This is simple. Would you tell your son that? And I had another doctor. Matter of fact, first it started with the nurse. When I got to the back, and I was back there for like 30, 45 minutes. Nobody ran the IV or nothing like that at that point. And so I'm just waiting. Because in my head, you know, and I'm an adult at this point as well. So in my head, I pay attention. I just pay attention to everything that's going on, which is going to determine how I interact with you. So I asked the nurse, is there another, whoever my doctor is, you don't even have to tell me who he is. Can I get another one for the emergency room, another emergency room doctor? So then they asked me why. So I'm like, well, I've been back here for like 30, 45 minutes, and nobody has even, you know, I got the IV in my arm, but he haven't even started no fluid. So in my opinion, I feel like he don't know what he's doing. So at this point, I'm not knowing the man black because I haven't seen him. And I told her, like, you know, I haven't seen him. I've been back here. He ain't even started no fluids yet. So this lady comes to tell me, she says, well, the University of Chicago has done a study. And with that study, it showed that IV fluids don't even help if you all sickly. I say, well, I wasn't there.
I hate it when they say that.
Yeah, I told her I wasn't there. So they did a study on, I don't know who they did a study on, but I wasn't part of that study. So get me the fluids because it helps me with mine. So I don't know whoever you talk to the other 20 people that y'all did the study on, and then you do this for them. But I'm talking about me right now. And so eventually, you know, I talked to the lady, and you could tell that this was a white lady. You could tell that she was trying to, you know, make it seem like I was a seeker. So I say, you know, when I seen her looking in the charts, that's when I kind of like realized it. So I'm like, listen, when you also look in the charts, look and see how long it's been since I've been here. It's been over a year since I've been here. If I was anything other than what, you know what I'm saying that I am, then, you know, I would be here way more than once a year. So once she did that, she started treating me a little bit differently. She was all right. But then the next thing you know, the doctor sends her up in there with a prescription. I had been there for a while. The doctor sends her up in there with a prescription for 20 Norcos. So I give the nurse back the prescription, and I say, you know, you could take that back to him. Tell him I'm all right. Because they was releasing me. And I'm like, you can tell him I'm all right. I just do whatever it is. I'm telling y'all, I don't even need, now I want to be monitored is what I'm telling them. That's what I'm there for. I just want to be monitored because I feel like something's wrong. I want to be monitored. Like I say, man send 20 Norcos prescription. I send it back. Now he comes. Now I see this a black man. Saying. So when he sit down, he said, was there something wrong with my services? And I'm like, yeah, there's something wrong with your services. You know, you done sent back this, and I'm telling you that I need to be here for something totally different. Like, I want to be monitored. This is why I'm asking y'all to stay. I'm not asking y'all for anything else. I need to be monitored. So he sat there, and you could tell he was like assessing me. So then he goes off into like, oh, well, you know, you look like you tired. You don't really get any rest or anything. And I'm like, look, man, that tells me you don't know much. So I actually went into the group, Sickle Cell United, and I asked, how many people in here don't get no sleep? Maybe about 10 minutes, about 20, 30 people had already commented, like talking about how they, so I showed him my phone. Look, we all don't get that much rest. It ain't just me, man. So then he ended up telling the lady to come in and take my oxygen levels again. And he saying it was like 86 or something like that. Saying, and I wound up staying there for 2 or 3 days. That was the thing, because he told me he was going to just monitor me for 24 hours. But I ended up staying there for a few days. Now, had he to send me home with those Norcos, you know, with the pain medicine that he thought that I wanted, and no telling how it would have been when I got home, you know. But
and maybe it's a pie in the sky, but I don't think it's too much to expect physicians to come and apologize. I don't think that it's too much for them to come and stop in that room and say, you know what, thank you, you taught me something. I think that just something that simple goes such a long way to say, you know what, I was wrong. Every other profession seems like that is an okay and acceptable thing to do, and yet they don't even give us the dignity of admitting when we are actually correct, which is a whole lot of the time. And when we talk about how do we repair these relationships, how do we bridge these gaps, it starts with being able to acknowledge when you're wrong. And we've not been able to get that back from the healthcare community. There's no acknowledgement of the wrong that has been and is currently being done.
So you have to understand that
goes back to how they're trained. You know, they're trained to be arrogant. They're trained to, I have to get control of the room in 3 to 5 minutes or else nobody's going to listen to me. And truthfully, you know, after my 43 years on this earth and my 120 of collective memory, just in my family alone, I'm at a point where I'm like, you don't have to apologize. Because when, you know, your malpractice insurance goes up, because I'm about to file this good report with the state, you know, then maybe you'll learn to be a little bit more decent to your patients, you know. And I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact people can't tell how old we are for the most part.
Yep.
We all look 10 to 15 years younger than we actually are. So, you know, that brings in something. And the amount of people that I've had tell me, little girl, well, you're not going to tell me, or how would you know? And it's like, dude, you're 28 years old. You just walked out the damn university. I'm 40. This literally happened to me 3 years ago. I'm 40. Like, back up. And I don't know. I just feel like right now I'm on some stuff like, let's start costing people their jobs, because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That they can't be bothered.
I agree with you, Marissa. It's not about that apology. I agree. I agree. Yeah. But what I do like too is that we are getting to a place where we are writing these letters and we are sending them up the chain, because that's the documentation that we are going to need. And the more that we do that, the more that we can add to it that we are following their own process to file these complaints, and we're still getting no results. So clearly their process doesn't work. And so if their process doesn't work for us, then we find our process. And our process doesn't look like their process to bring change.
But Master, did you share the story of having to prove your daughter was your daughter in the ER?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're talking about the difference between single moms and dads.
Yep.
This is why we're having this conversation.
I've had that a few times. But even Marissa too, like what I was finna say pertaining to the non-apology judges is the same way. I was at court. I went to court, and the judge, soon as I walked in, I didn't even get to sit down yet. He said, pretty much asked me what my parents was and told me that no kids allowed in the courtroom. I'm here fighting for my kid. What are you talking about? Like, he said no kids here, you know, under 18 or whatever. And I'm like, man, I'm 40 years old. Like, talking about some no kids here under. But do you think he ever, you know, he didn't never apologize. Yeah, he never acknowledged he was wrong, any of that. Like, it was just he proceeded whatever he was doing, nothing else. Like, so I don't think that they have that in them because they went to school for so long and they feel like they just know everything. Like,
and you're right, and they do teach them that. Yeah, they teach them that they are the expert in the room. Yeah, it is. It's this hierarchical. Adrienne at one point said transactional. The way that healthcare is built will not serve us in the needs that we have, because we're not going to get the results and the outcomes, because what they're measuring and what they're going after is counterproductive to our interests.
But even like nurses, like I've had nurses, it's crazy. I've had nurses sit, and again, it's majority white nurses. They sit and they ask me, they ask a bunch of questions. And then they ask, how can we learn about this? And how can we learn about that? And I'll be telling them like this, do what you're doing right now is the best way to learn. Like, because the book only gonna teach you so much. And I tell doctors to their face, you read about it, I live it. Which one do you think is, you could read it, because as a man, I could read about women all day long. I never know what it's like though. As as white people, they read about us being black, and as black people, we read about them being white. That don't mean we know what it's like. It's a difference, a big difference. Like it's a big difference.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, in my son case, as I was like, everybody is different anyway. Every kid is different. And my kid has showed you so many times that he's not a particular, like they try to SC put on him into categories. Oh well, Dasir he has SC, but you would think that he was a SS patient, the way how he has prices and how he's always back into the in a hospital. And that's my thing. Like if he's like writing his own book, he's his own person. Like we don't know what it is, but he's his own person. So if you already know that he's his own person, what would make you think that he's a 6-year-old is coming to seek pain medicine from the hospital, or he don't want to walk? Like what 6-year-old you don't want to run around or want to play?
A
And
doctor
then
said that though?
yeah, like they actually said that one time.
Yeah,
And
he's
then
stupid. You should get rid of him.
the his older doctor, like when I called the hotline, let him know I was going to bring him into the hospital. Her name was Miss Maximus. She heard him hollering and screaming in the background, and she said, "Oh my God!" She said, "I'm so sorry." She said, "I'm going to call ahead to the ER. I'm going to let them know that you're coming in. Again, I apologize. I will see him in the morning." And that was the first time that we went to the ER. Like they had already admitted him. When we got there, like they admitted them. That she told him how much medicine, the PC, everything was already ready. So everything was going great with his care up until they decided to go back down, which she wasn't part of the plan, but she was the one that had to come and told him, no, like you need to go up. Like she sees my son as patient, like she's older, so she's seen a lot going on, in her years experience. And she also know how Dasir is when he's in the hospital, how when he comes in, and to see him in that much pain, and know how he was until, okay, he's getting better, but we need to go down. So I told him, like, my thing is with Dasir, like you have to start off aggressive, and then win your way down. Don't let's say play tic-tac-toe, try to keep going up. No, we ain't doing all that.
That's right.
He ain't got this. I can't
That's
do all
right.
that. It's just too much. Like, why do he have to suffer while you try to get the right combination? Be aggressive with this so we can make our stay shorter and we can be out of here. But the longer that you play around with it, only thing you're doing is making his body tense up and fight more, and he's in a lot of pain, and it's bad for everyone, And I tell them like
there is data to support what you're saying. There is data to support what you're saying.
Exactly.
To hit it hard in the beginning, and so I gotta agree with Master. There may come a point that you want to consider where else are your options for care, because at 6 years old, for them not to have the compassion that they need towards that baby is infuriating to me.
Right.
And you should not have to go through that.
It was actually only one doctor, but after I said that, it was cool. Like, because I never, and that's what I mean, because he never had a problem with his doctors before. They always good. And like for his first 2 years, when he went to the hospital, he never went to that hospital, even though he was under their care. It's because it was so far away. So I had him at Hopewell Hospital, but it had got to the point where they couldn't treat him for the crisis. He was always in pain, and they didn't know how to control it. So it got to the point where I had to call his hematologist and say, listen, that's still been in crisis for 24 hours. We've been at the hospital. The medicine they're giving him is not working. Like, I don't know what else to do. So he said, I'll call you back. He called to the hospital. He asked to speak to the administrator. He said, we're sending our ambulance. We're going to come get him. And as soon as the ambulance came and got my son, like they put the morphine, like instantly he stopped crying. And it was like such a peace. Like we was able to drive there without him hollering. Wow. So I was like, oh, well, this hospital know what they're doing. This is what specialized in his disease. This is where I need to keep him at. And so from there, like every time we went, it was always, everything was good up until the time before the last, when they said, so well, when they said the psychiatrist in there, and I went off about them, lowering his medicine and stuff like that. And I said, understand, listen, you have to, because before, I think it was because I didn't want to give him the medicine of a narcotic. So I would wait a while to give it to him. And I felt like once I seen that I was causing more harm than doing good, I realized that I need to give him this medicine when it starts so we could get ahead of it instead of having to wait till it start and then play catch up. So I had to realize that as a parent, as going into this the first time, what do I need to do to adjust this? Even though it's not, like I said, I don't want to give my son this medicine. I had no choice. So when he has his crisis and stuff, I give him some medicine. Even like when they tell me when he get discharged to give him the medicine around the clock for first 48 hours. That's how I start. When he start with a crisis, that's what I do before we go to the hospital. By the time it's the second dose, I already know if we're going to the hospital or not. Like I can just tell, the way he's acting, if we're going to have to go to the hospital or not, by the second dose or whatever. So with that being said, so I told him I noticed that when we start aggressively and with the medicine and go down, like it has proven fact that he does better than we sit up here play catch up, and then he's in this pain, and then we're still fighting, trying to get it under control, and then we're like there longer. Versus if we start aggressive and lower the doses down, our stage is shorter. And like I say, like, and that's the thing, like what Master said, they read about it, like we live this life, like as parents, and you guys with me, like this is what you live. We live this. We go through. We see what's going on. So, like I said again, I'm his first doctor. I know when something's not right for my son. I know when something. And even the nurses, he's nice nurses. Even they would say, one time they took him off the morphine and gave him Darlot, and I told them to say, listen, this Darlot is not working. Oh well, it's 2 times stronger than the morphine. I said, listen, this Darlot is not working. I want him to go back onto morphine. So then, at the nighttime, they had a resident in. They don't have like the resident. So the resident came and I said, listen, I want this message switched back to I don't want to hear nothing else you have to say. I had to be real aggressive with them. There's nothing else that you can tell me about this dollar. And I don't care how strong it is, it's not working for my son. I want him to go back on the morphine and I want him to go back on the Toradol. He's not getting any sleep. It's a big difference. So within 20 minutes, they switched the medicine back. And the nurse, they was like, look how calm he is. I said, I know what I'm talking about. Like they think because they're the doctors, they know everything. You don't know what's going on. I'm telling you, this medicine is not working for my son.
Let me tell you what's happening.
That he's used to being on. So when they switched him back, like, it was fine. It was just like, it's just a lot.
Let me tell you what's happening for you and your son. Well, for your son. Well, yeah, y'all. What's happening is, and I tell all of the parents because it's real. They treating sickle cell. They're not treating your son.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Exactly.
So if it was me, right? If I took morphine or whatever I took prior to Dilaudid, that's what they would know. That's what they would do. They're not treating your son as an individual case. They treating your son as if he's everybody else's case. And so they reacting to everybody else. They reacting to him the way they would anybody else. So that's why you have to always, I tell everybody, you have to always ask, are you treating my son or are you treating sickle cell? Are you treating me or are you treating sickle cell? And if they say sickle cell, you might want to go with another doctor again. Because
I have no, you're right.
It's not gonna.
Some generic as unwanted, unnecessary, not so important illness that just happens to be the largest hereditary illness in the world in the continental U.S. But I like this quote from this movie called "As the Band Played On," and it's about the onset of the AIDS epidemic and how, basically while doctors fought, not just in the States, but like over continents, right? Doctors are like fighting to get the vaccine and to figure out what HIV is versus AIDS. And basically they're withholding information from each other. I mean, I wasn't that old when AIDS like hit, but I was old enough to know that like this is crazy, oh my God, what's happening? And they have a quote that says, when doctors start acting like businessmen, who can people turn to for doctors? And like that's the whole thing. Right now we have the opioid crisis. Oh, now we got freaking COVID-19. you know, and it's like policies that are being put in place by people who got business admin degrees and not medical degrees and their bit of medical experience, who are dictating like our care. And that's one of the most frightening things that I can think of. The first time I had to go to battle with a pharmacist and an administrator over my pain medication because they withheld my doctor's order. Oh, well, we just feel that he's giving you too much, and perhaps you two have just gotten a little bit too familiar because we see he's been your doctor for over a decade. Neither one of those people works at Cedars anymore, by the way, after I got done. But like, who are you? Who are you to tell me, to tell my doctor what's best for me? How dare you? And like, you know, we have these policies coming in place. And I used to think that the age of consent laws were like sort of overstepping. Because, you know, in every state, age of consent can go from like 14 to 18, or at least it could. I don't know if it still can. And I remember the first time I turned 16 and the doctor walked in the room, immediately kicked my mom out and was like, we need to talk about your sex life. I was like, what sex life? I've barely gone through puberty. I'm not even through puberty yet. What the hell are you talking about? What sex life? And it was like, well, do you have one? No. Okay, we'll let her back in. And nobody ever explained to me why that happened. Why was my mom being kicked out? And why was it automatically being assumed that I had this sex life, right? And so the first time I had to go to the ER at 16, I'd been in the hospital prior, 3 months prior at 15. I go to the ER, I'm with my best friend. We came from the mall. We literally drove across the street from the mall to Cedars. And it was a completely unrecognizable place. Like all of a sudden they separated me from my friend. They were like interrogated us. They told me if we didn't have the same story, they wouldn't treat me. They tried to order a pelvic exam on me. They kept asking me if I was sexually active. I kept saying no. They kept saying, oh, well, we'll see about that. You know, we have ways to figure that out. I mean, just totally and completely inappropriate. And my mother was 15 minutes away trying to get to me. And I remember that was like the first time that A, I felt totally and completely violated. B, I felt that my rights were being totally and completely violated. I was personally offended, but that was also the first time where I was like, why are you grouping me into, you know, just a generic ass group of supposedly promiscuous teenagers, you know, like I'm 16 years old. What are you talking about? And I thought that that was perhaps one of the most disruptive things, you know, that a doctor can do to both the patient and the parent until the opioid crisis happened. And now I'm looking at, you know, COVID-19 and how it's affecting, once again, administrators are affecting our policies, you know, opioid crisis. They're telling us that we're addicts and our medications were always too much and we never needed that much from the beginning. And, you know, administrators have the ability to like literally void out a doctor's orders. What the hell? You know, you got COVID-19, they have these policies where you can't have a visitor, you can't have an advocate, you can't even have your minister come into the hospital, like completely cutting us off from our allies. And here we are, scared, sick, in pain, hopefully medicated, because most of us are not being, and exhausted and having to be everything to ourselves. Like, I don't know, y'all tell me. I feel like it's you just sort of setting up a trifecta for death, and just worse. You coming out of a hospital worse than you came in, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and it's scary.
Yeah, with the COVID going on, I was so scared to take my son to the hospital. When he first went into a pain crisis in March, I was terrified to take him. And I didn't. I wound up treating him home. I was like, I don't know. They're saying you can't stay at the hospital with the kids. I don't know what's going on, but I can't do it. But when he went to the hospital this last time, I had no other choice. And actually, it kind of went smooth. But they did have to do the COVID test on him in order for him to get to the HEMOT floor. They had to do this COVID test, and the results had to come back in order for us to be able to be clear in order for him to go. And when we went, it was pretty cool. It was not like what I expected. Um, it wasn't that many kids on the HEMOT floor. Um,
Mhm.
it wasn't that many parents as you usually would see. It was kind of quiet, it was kind of quiet, but it was not what I expected. I mean, so it was okay. But when it first started, I was scared to death. I said, "Oh no," I'm like, "Oh no, my son, he go like they try to kill my son." I was afraid, like even with school, like I was like, I'm not sending my son back to school. Like he cannot afford to catch, no infection because when he gets sick, he really gets sick. And I mean, he could be, you could be healthy one minute and playing, and then the next minute is dissing you down and you're not moving, and he needing oxygen and it's just a lot. Like, and it's so quickly,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? And so like, and one of the things I had with him with his dad, we're not together, and he went to take my son with him, and I'm like, listen, we have to sit down and have a conversation, about his health. And if you don't want to have this conversation, then you're not going to take my son, because I'm not going to allow my son to go with anybody, and nobody want to have a conversation about what you know what's going on in his life, what he could be around, the things that he could do, and the signs that he would show you before you even know that what's going on with him. Like, you might annoy him and think, oh, he tell you something hurt you, oh no, ain't nothing hurt with you, boy, you're fine. And and it's not, so at the end of the day, you may look at it like, oh, it's nothing, but this is my son's life we're talking about, and into something serious. You don't look at it like this,
Mhm.
but this is everything. And I can't allow my son to go with anyone that does not want to know what's going on with his health, and not aware of it. I don't care who it is. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, if you want to be ignorant to the fact and you don't want to know what's going on with your son in life, and you feel like, oh, he's going to be all right and this and that, then you know what? Then that's cool. But, he will not be going with you anywhere. You want to see him? You can see him when he over here, or you can see him when he's at his second mom house. Other than that, you're not going to take my son and go anywhere with him. Like, you're not going to do that, because if something happened, what you going to say? Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to hear all of that. Like, you as his parent, because he never seen firsthand his son go into a crisis, for one. He never seen that. He,
Mhm.
he never got a chance to see, all the things that I have to go through, you know, dealing with this sickle cell disease. And the last time he was in the hospital, when I recorded, I actually had made a post and I had put it on Facebook. I let them know I'm not looking for any sympathy. I'm not looking for empathy. This is what goes on with kids that have sickle cell. A lot of people don't know what's going on, you know, or how this really plays out. But this is something that I have to live with, and this is what I go through. Like, you could never walk in my shoes, like, you could say what you want to say about me, but this is my life that I have to live, and this is real. Like, this is not no fairy tale. This is real life. This is what I have to deal with, to give you just a little insight on what's going on in my life, what I have to deal with, and a lot of people be like, oh my God, like, I'm praying for, like, I don't know how you do it, like, you're so strong. But at the end of the day, being strong is the only option I have. And we can't giving up is not an option. Like, this is what we have, this is what we gotta fight. This is, I have to be, like, again, his biggest advocate. I have to do what I have to do for him, you know, and like I said, and my job too is to make others aware of his condition that he's going to be involved with, that he's in contact with, and here tell people quick, oh, I have sickle cell, this is what I have, this is what I can do, or I have to drink plenty of water,
Mhm.
and the things I have to keep Pete says he can't be like, he know a lot. Like, I can't keep stressing. I'm so proud of him, because he know a lot about his condition, what he can do, what he can't, and he's aware, what's going on. And he will. And one time when my son was sick in the hospital, when he had his spleen, with his spleen secretion, it was the last time before he had his surgery, and they couldn't get the spleen to go down. They did 2 blood transfusion. They were supposed to, if it don't go down by the next day, we're gonna have to do emergency surgery, just get it out, because they didn't want it to rupture. And they came in, and my son was in so much pain, and he told the doctor, he said, I just feel like it's nothing that y'all can do to help me. When I say those doctors did not say anything. They were speechless. He was 4 at this time when this happened. Like it was 3 doctors. It was 4 doctors, and it was the nurses in. So it was about 5 or 6 of them in. And when he said that, his exact words was, he's like, I feel like there's nothing you guys can do to help me. They were speechless. They was like, oh my God. They was like, we're trying, little man. We're trying. We're doing our best. We're trying. Like, they couldn't believe that he said this. That's what, I don't have to tell you how he's feeling. And you guys can not think that I know what's going on. But my son has a mind of his own. He's very outspoken, and he's going to let you know how he's feeling, what's going on. One thing I love about him, like, he's blunt. Like, he let whatever, how he let this come out. He has no filter when it comes to his mouth. He's respectful, but he's gonna let you know. And he said that to them, and they was just looking. They couldn't believe that he said that to them. They were just looking at each other like, wow. It's like, we're trying. Like, yeah, this is what he said. So this is how he feels. So now y'all know I didn't tell him this. Y'all see this for your own self. This is how he feels. So, like, it's real, So it's a lot.
Okay. We have about 15 minutes left because it is 8:15 here on the West Coast. I know it's late over there. So one last thing. So a large part of this was to bring together parents that are parenting children of the opposite sex. And there are things that clearly one sex goes through that the other doesn't. Like, so I'm just going to put out there, Master and I were talking about priapism, things of that nature. Do you guys, as a mom, do you have questions about that perhaps Master can help you with? Master, do you have questions about, your daughter having to grow into adulthood with sickle cell that you would like to ask us? Because you got a room full of women right now with a whole lot of experience, especially, when it comes to things like that. So is there anything that you guys like, questions, wonderings? Because I didn't know about priapism until like 2 years ago. Yes, no, maybe so. Thoughts?
Oh, did Master speak? I can't hear. Did he speak?
No.
And I wasn't sure if I heard somebody saying that. Oh.
He did not.
Oh, okay. I don't really have no questions really yet, I guess, because my son is still so young. So I really don't have any questions, and I really just think, like, with Dasir, because the thing I do like, I will say about him being, our bond is very, very deep. Like, our bond, like, we have a very close bond. Like, I just thank God for him. I say that all the time, even though I didn't want to be honest, I did not want to be pregnant at all. I didn't want to have a boy. I did not want to be bothered at all. But I thank God that he gave me this special, special child. Even with it has allowed us to bond so much more deeper. Like, when we're in the hospital alone or we're in a room, like, we talk so much. And like I said, he has no filter. So anything he's going to know, he's going to come out and ask. Like, he's going to come out and ask, or he's going to stay where he speaks on his mind. So whenever the time is right, whatever he has to go through, I'm confident that I'll be able to answer. I feel like we'll be okay. And plus, again, I have a first cousin that has sickle cell disease, and usually when he's in the hospital, they both in the hospital around the same time, and my cousin, that he just got his first transfusion, I'm gonna say maybe this winter. And he called and asked me. He was kind of scared. I'm like, man, Dasir had so many I done forgot how many transfusions he had. I ain't gonna lie. I said at first it was scary because I didn't want him to have a transfusion. But when your son life is on the line, it's so he need this. You have no other choice. But so anything, I feel like a lot being by he's been in the hospital so much, and he goes through the same thing pretty much that Dasir goes through. Like, I have somebody I can ask about things on that person note because he lived it firsthand as well.
That's wonderful, because so many don't. And like I said, as a patient, I mean, I knew it existed. I just didn't know how prevalent and how painful, you know, and how often that this seems to happen. But we would have like these discussions and these group meetings, and priapism would be brought up. And I tell you, every man in the room from like 20 to 65 all of a sudden start shaking their head like, yep, oh yeah, yep, that happened, it happened. And the women in the room were like, really? Like that? Oh, okay. Didn't know. So that was just a question. Where's Master? Are you still with us?
Master, are you still here? He's still here. But I don't see him.
I don't see him. Okay. Well, Shaban.
Okay, well, for the rest of the questions, you guys pretty much answered them. So if there's any last remarks, anything you want to say, any questions you want to ask, anything that you would like to to community of people who really, you know, some parents, they're just finding out that their kids have been born with sickle cell. So, you know, a lot of people who just want information from the perspective of people who have been there. So, you know, any advice you would give or anything in that nature before we go? And, you know, any message of encouragement?
I would honestly just say, as a parent, be kind to yourself, and yet at the same time challenge yourself, right? We challenge ourselves. We, so much of that we don't have a choice in. But when we have days that we're overwhelmed, be kind to yourself, because this is a lot. I would also say that, and I kind of alluded to it in the beginning, I have every reason to believe that this gets greater later, and that there is still hope. From a disease understanding and cure, this is the best time I've ever been involved in this work. I've never had as much hope as I have now. Now, in humanity, that's a whole different conversation, a whole different topic. But the research, the learnings, I heard it once said, if they can cure sickle cell disease, they can cure anything. There's a lot riding on this cure. And whether we know it or not, we hold the ability to unlock medicine in amazing ways. We did it when they discovered us. We were the first genetic disease that was identified. And when they find this universal cure, it's going to change the world. And our kids are going to see us in an entirely different light. And I hold on to that. It's some days that's all that carries me. So that's what I say. Let your kid live. Don't put them in a bubble. You know, you're going to want to knock them upside the head just like any other kid. They're going to fuss and fight with you, their siblings. Listen, it's just that is their norm. And they want to feel like their norm is normal for them without feeling like they get pulled out and they can't do this and they can't do that. My son, I would put him outside, and he at the time he wanted to play little league baseball or whatever, he would be sick as a dog. And I'd be like, I really don't think you should be playing this game. And he'd be like, don't make me go. And he'd be out there. I knew he was in pain. He would turn around. I would see him vomiting on the field. And I would get ready to get up to come snatch him. And he would be like, no. I don't have the right to steal that from him. Now, I'm not saying I didn't learn through that and teach him through that, how to manage that more appropriately. But at the same time, I can't steal his childhood. We can't get that back. And it's important that they have that childhood.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would agree with you there too. That's a lot of people used to say like every time he would go back, like, why don't you just take your son out of school? Because he will always get sick. And I was like, the thing is, I don't want to steal. He's such a good kid and he loves school. He loves his friends. I didn't want to steal his social life, even though he goes to karate and baseball. But school is different. I wanted him to have the experience of going to school and being, involved with other kids and everything like that. Um, so that's
Mm-hmm.
not why I didn't want to still with him. But with all of this COVID-19 that's going on, I have made the decision that I'm going to get him homeschooled for September. I'm not going to risk it with him going to school. Like I feel like I can't do that. I'm
Yeah,
not going to do that, and let him sit this
that's
year out and
smart.
see how it goes. Just because like uh I don't like the parents. Like I don't. I feel like parents don't tend to keep their kids home when they're sick. They're not looking out for other kids when they're sick. And
I
even
never
before I
do.
had my when I had my son that had, disaster, my other kids, when my kids would be sick, I didn't send them to school because I didn't want them to make other kids go to you sick at school. And parents tend to want to just get their kids out there not to be bothered, so they don't want to keep them home if they're sick, so but I can't say with his school honestly, when I had to sit down and have a heart to heart with the principal and the nurse and let them know, listen, like, it's I noticed every time that they come back to school, he gets sick back again when he come home and he go back and it's this virus he got and it's coming from school. This is where you come in. You don't gotta worry about here in school. But can you please ask the parents, send a letter out to them, ask them if their kids are sick, can you please ask them to keep their kid home? Because ultimately, like, we have somebody here that is my son life you're talking about. It may not be that, oh, my child coughing, got a runny nose, oh, they'll be fine. But what about the kid that doesn't have an immune system? Now my son doesn't have a spleen. He's not even on antibiotics no more, so for him to fight off infection is hard. It could mean his life, like we were talking about. So I just need you, can you please, so once they send letters out to the parents and stuff, I send Clorox white Lysol, his hand sanitizer, all of that. And I noticed a change with him getting so sick so often in school. I know it's a big difference, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly can't say that, but like I said, with this school, I already told the doctor, like, and I'm not sending my son back to school for September. Like, I'm not gonna do it. Like, I don't know what they got going on, but I don't want no parts of it. I'm gonna have them homeschool my son and just let him get his social life as he was living it, but not for school. I'm not gonna take the chance.
You
I don't
know,
blame you,
Brandy,
sis. I don't blame you at
I
all.
don't blame you.
I can't.
But
I feel like I can't do it.
when I was 13, I had a bone infarct, and I was out of school for 3.5 months.
Mm,
And for those of you who don't know what a bone infarct is out there in the ether, it basically is a thin crack in your bone. Like, think of it as a fault line, very, very thin, minuscule little crack that causes all kinds of shenanigans and mess in the body, from infection, brittle bone. You can break something, I mean, just as easily as, like, you trip and sort of run into a wall and catch yourself, and boom, that bone is like not having it. And I was out of school for 3.5 months, and I was in 8th grade, and I was already in like private schools, small school. And my teachers would come, and they would basically, they taught me in school every Tuesday and Saturday. My teachers came to the hospital with my homework and whatnot. And one day, my teacher, Mr. Historian, he came and he had all of these booklets, and he said, "This is from your class. They're journals, and I'm not allowed to read them, nor is any other adult. And what I want is you go through them and you read what they wrote to you, and then you're gonna write back, because there's no, there's none of this. There's no social media, right?" And I remember at first it was like a nuisance, like, you what? You over here trying to make homework fun? This is not fun. You got me writing essays and extra letters. I am not doing this. And then, of course, you can't sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. The life of a sickle seller, right? And I started reading these little journals. And at first, they would just be like, "Hi, I'm sorry you're in the hospital. Hope you feel better soon. Hi, I know I don't talk to you that often, but I'm sorry you're sick." And about week 3, something very interesting started happening. I became the soundboard for the entire class. I had all the gossip. I mean, I had so-and-so, I like so-and-so. You think she liked me back? Hey, what do you think about this? Oh, this girl is talking to me and I just hate her so much. I can't wait for you to come back to class. I had all the gossip. I knew everything that was going on in the classroom. And when I finally came back to school, the most interesting thing happened was that for the first time in my life, I didn't have to explain myself. I did not have to explain myself in any way, shape, or form. Where were you? What happened? Is it safe for you to come back? Why are you here? Are you going to be able to graduate? I didn't have to deal with any of that because my teacher had made such an effort to keep me involved in class. So whenever I talk to parents who homeschool, their kids are in like this kind of situation, I think it's amazing that A, you're taking on the role of parent and teacher, but B, do whatever you can to just keep your child socially involved and connected to their peers, because as chronically ill children, it is so easy for us to just go into our own little world and kind of be there and be content at that, you know what I mean? But it's equally as important to have those connections with your peers. So
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that too. That's why I'm going to keep him in his sports and everything. But I really don't feel comfortable in sending him back to school. I really don't, because like I said, I don't know what nobody kids going to do. And then one time a school not too, they said they had a case of the month, which is not too far from us. And then I'm like, well, I hope their brothers and sisters not going to the same school my son's going to. Like, I don't got time to keep being freaked out or whatever like that. But then also think like whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But like with this situation, like I said, I feel like I'm kind of forced to, because there's so much of the unknown with this COVID, and they don't always might be coming back. It's too much of the unknown. So with that being said, for this year that's coming up, I have decided that I'm going to keep him home. And I talked to him about it. I told him like, listen, for school, when school start back in September, like you're not going to be going back to school. So you're going to be having the teachers come, going to be coming here, and that's just going to how it's go. You're going to go to your regular things, but you're not going to be in a classroom with your teacher. Maybe the following year you can go back, but for this year, we definitely sitting out. Yeah, it's definitely going to be enough.
Amen.
That's completely understandable.
Oh.
I was saying that's.
Sorry, I thought I lost you.
Oh, it's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was saying I completely understand. I've been debating that myself, especially when I went to sign my daughter up. It kept giving me problems. I'm like, is this a sign? Is this a sign from God saying we should not do this here? Like, let me know.
Yeah.
Right.
So I definitely understand and I get it, because a big part of me just wants to just kind of wait it out as well. Especially seeing that my daughter, I pretty much homeschool her already anyway, so I wouldn't be out of my element. So, the difference is I won't get that break. My sanity. Would it be okay for my sanity? But no, I definitely understand. And, just from my standpoint, because I know that this live was dedicated to mostly to parents who had children with sickle cell. But as someone who is the child of a sickle cell patient, and also my daughter, she doesn't have sickle cell, but she does have the trait. I think I do offer a unique perspective into just living with this beast in general. And, the wanting to give up because you feel like, when does it end? There's a constant fight. You just get tired. You get tired of fighting. You get tired of seeing the inside of hospitals. And I think this is like for parents in general. I get tired of being away from my child in the hospital. I get really ran down. And those are the times that I really have to pull out that fight in me. And I just want to say this to those parents who may be feeling that way, who may be feeling, whether you have sickle cell or whether your child has sickle cell, because everybody gets discouraged sometimes. I think that you have to realize that your child, in any way that you deal with this disease, is looking up to you. And
Mhm.
it may be getting really, really tough sometimes, and it may be really hard to deal with, but remember why you're fighting. Remember why you're fighting so hard, and hold on to that. Even in the times where you feel like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, find that fight, find the reason, and just keep holding on and keep fighting. And know that it does get greater later, and it does get better regardless. As long as you keep some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, you will never be in darkness.
Faith and fight. Faith and fight.
Exactly.
Okay.
Said, ladies, we lost 2 of our panelists, and I know it's really late, and I just want to thank everybody who was a part of this, and thank you, ladies, for giving a great perspective and experience towards this. I am tired myself, so I'm going to say my positive words of wisdom, and then Marissa, you feel free to say yours and close it out, and we can end this. So my positive words.
Well, don't you have to do it because you're the host?
Well, I'll end it, but you can say it, and then I end it. It's
Oh, okay. We're still learning.
So, all right. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Until next time.
And leave people in places better than you found them, and you too will become a better person. Thank you so much for staying with us, staying with this conversation that went an hour and a half over. And thank you, Brandy, and thank you, Ray and Master, for sharing your experiences. I truly believe, well, here at Sickle Cell Experience, we truly believe that the best way to educate is each one teach one. So thank you for that. And everybody have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you again. You guys have a good night.